Welcome to my new Senate video, and let's start. With the safe states that are already filled in, we can move on to Maryland. In this race, a few days ago, also Brooks had a bit of a scandal with taxes since she took advantage and put herself as a senior citizen in I think it was in tax receipts or something like that, so she didn't have to pay as much taxes, and that did come out a few days ago, and that's probably gonna hurt her a bit. But yeah, here's the polling. Recent ones, estimate around 6% on 538. I don't think it's going to be a really close race like some people are saying, but the momentum recently for Larry Hogan is getting better. That's for sure, and I think this scandal will hurt also Brooks, and I think that's going to be just enough for this race to drop down to likely D. I still expect this to be a plus 10 victory margin for the Democrats. And for Nebraska, I did this video yesterday, but yeah, likely R for Def Bisher. If you want to see more of my explanation, you can just check out yesterday's video. I highly recommend watching it. I go really in depth about this race and how, the possibilities about it and what to expect this November. So yeah, highly recommend go and check that out. And let's see, these are basically the two states that could easily be safe races, but are just barely in the high likely category. And for a similar race in New Mexico, in this race you got Heinrich against Nell Dominici. And we just go to 5:30 for the polls. The most recent one from Survey USA, Albuquerque sponsor, has this by a 13%. Democrats should win here. I think it's going to be around, I'm probably going to say 9 to 11%. I expect Heinrich to win re-election easily. I think Dominici is a good candidate, but still New Mexico's too blue of a state. And let's see for Arizona. So Arizona, yeah. Arizona, you got Kari Lake, who is not gaining momentum. Trump has even, distanced himself away from her in the last few months. Ruben Gallego's getting all the momentum, money, donors, endorsements, anything you can think of. You got Sienna, actually, with the most recent poll saying he's probably going to win here by anywhere from, 6 to 9%. There's still a lot of undecided voters, which actually is a really bad sign for Kari Lake, since I expect most of these voters to go to Gallego due to how poor of a candidate she is. 538 has this by 6.6. I think it's probably going to be even... okay. And Kari Lake, the main thing going for her is really immigration. That's the only thing. And for Gallego, he has abortion, a referendum too, so I expect him to win here by... Honestly, right now, I'm going to say 9 to 11%. I think he's doing quite well, and Kari Lake is not doing as, she's not gaining any momentum, and yeah, everything's going against her. So yeah, I'm gonna give this as a 10% victory for Gallego, which is crazy to think about just 1 year ago. And now let's go to Virginia, actually. So in Virginia, the polling actually shows Kane almost winning by a safe margin. I think, I don't know, just from the momentum I'm seeing, I'm gonna guess he wins here by around 6 to 8%. I'm not too sure what's going to happen. I think there's a lot of money going into Virginia, both in the presidential level and just in various facets in politics. So don't think it's going to be a landslide for Kane. Still, I'm going to guess he wins here by 7 to 9%. I think that's respectable, and yeah, it kind of looks weird with likely D Maryland. And I think now for the states that could actually drop down into the lean D level, I think we can easily see some of these going forward. I'm going to start off with Nevada. Nevada, we haven't really seen that much change in the last few months, I'd say. Jackie Rose, and I think she has fortified her re-election chances with ever since Biden dropped out. That has helped some down-ballot Democrats from what I could tell. You can see the polling right here. It's all over the place. Sam Brown doesn't have as much money. 538 actually has this by almost 10%. RCP by almost 10% too. I don't know. I know that Sam Brown, I wouldn't call him like a bad candidate. He's not amazing either. But Jackie Rosen, I think she's just going to cruise to re-election. Here's the latest poll. A couple from Emerson. I think the undecideds should be quite equal. So I'm going to guess she wins here by a likely margin. Haven't seen Sam Brown gain momentum recently, and it's almost looking like Republicans are slowly backing away from Nevada. But yeah, who knows, election day, anything can happen, but for now, likely D, and quite a lot of likely Ds here. And now let's go to Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania recently, I think McCormick on the down low has kind of the opposite of Sam Brown. Is slowly gaining momentum. I know that is approaching a lot of minority groups like Jewish people and Jewish organizations to kind of like get their backing, trying to make sure that he's able to, you know, squeeze out as many votes as he can against such a strong incumbent like Bob Casey. And let me check right here actually. Polling Pennsylvania, yeah, it's right there. So 6.2 in the estimate. So got these polls. Saskatchewan, Emerson, probably the most reliable from these, but even then they're a bit right leaning. So that Emerson poll from the 15th to the 18th has this as a 5% win, but a lot of these undecided voters, I'm not gonna say majority, but probably gonna say like 3/5 easily go to Bob Casey. So, but from the momentum that McCormick is getting, I don't think it drops down to lean D. But I think it's not as much of a safety category as before, so I'm going to have this as a Bob Casey Jr. win by 5 to 7%. I think a lot of these down ballot Democrats are doing much better than they were back compared to when Biden was on the ticket. You can see a lot of these races are actually doing quite well, except for like Pennsylvania from what I'm seeing in Maryland. And there we go. So that's it for the likely states. So we can now move on to the lean states. These following states, the lean ones. Let's see, so I can either start off with Texas or Florida. So in Florida, and which is good news for the GOP since Democrats are going to be pouring a whole lot of money into the races since Chuck Schumer thinks that Florida could be in play. I mean, he's not the best at predicting stuff, so yeah, that's going to be good for the Republicans since you're going to see a whole lot more money into the race, and that's really the main reason why I think it's going to drop from likely R, from which I think was my last prediction, to lean R. You can see not that many pollsters, unfortunately. You know, morning consult, they're meh. So I'm just from the vibes I'm getting from how much money we're going to see the Democrats spend in Florida because they want to have something in case Montana doesn't go their way. You're going to see a lot of money be spent in Florida, but it's going to be a waste for Democrats, in my opinion. I think Rick Scott defeats DMP by 3 to 5%. I don't think it's going to drop from that. Who knows, really, but it should be an easy victory for the Republicans in Florida, of course. And now for Texas. So Texas is interesting since it has slowly become more and more competitive in the last, I'd say, few weeks. Quite similar to Florida, Democrats think they have a chance or are trying to better their odds in these two Sunbelt states. And yeah, I mean, All Red is trying to run a bit of a Katie Hobbs style campaign from what I'm seeing. And yeah, you got these morning consult poll that actually has, you know, I mean, technically has All Red winning, but there's 11% undecided. And most of these undecided are probably going to go for Cruz from what I'm seeing. Emerson has this by 4, and that's probably going to, that is quite probably right. Probably like 3% instead of 4, to be honest. But yeah, let me check. Estimate actually has this within almost 3 points on 538, so that's not good news. I still, yeah, the only way I think I could see Democrats flipping this race and this seat in 2024 is if Trump loses or almost loses Texas. Yeah, because in order for that to happen, Democrats have to win by a humongous margin. But still, I think, yeah, this does drop off from likely R for my last prediction, but into a lean R victory for Cruz. Think Democrats spending more in these Sunbelt states will help him a bit, but still, I think it's way too late. Less than 40 days away from the election, and with the momentum going for the Democrats, it's not going to be enough. And I expect Cruz and Rick Scott to win both here by 3 to 5%. And yeah, just keep an eye on these states. It's going to be fun for sure. And now let's go to Wisconsin and Michigan. Why not? So in Michigan, you got Mike Rogers against Slotkin. Not the most exciting of races, to be honest with you, but here's RCP saying almost a 5% victory. For Slotkin, most of the undecided voters will probably go to her because she's more of this, a bit of a centrist. Suffolk and Emerson, probably the most reliable pollsters here, have this as around a 2 to 4% victory, and I agree with that margin. Estimate has this 5.6. Yeah, I'm agree with that option. I think Michigan, Slotkin should easily win by a lean margin. The only way I could see her losing is if Harris loses Michigan by like a lean margin. Still, Slotkin should be able to win here, and I think she wins here by 3 to 5% against Rogers, who's a bit of a more boring candidate. And the MI GOP, just like that Arizona GOP, they're not that good, so probably gonna have some funding issues too. So that's why I think Democrats shouldn't worry too much about Michigan. And now for Wisconsin, a race that is way more interesting, in my opinion. You got Baldwin incumbent against Hovda. Hovda, unlike Sam Brown, he's not losing ground. He might be gaining a bit of ground from what I'm feeling and just predicting. Emerson, let me check. Yeah, Redfield. I haven't heard of them before, so that's why I'm not even contemplating them. Emerson has this by around 3, even though most of these undecided voters probably go to her. So, still should be an easy win for Baldwin here, unless, like I said before, Trump blah 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 wins or blah blah blah. I think she wins here by 3 to 5%. Could maybe even be likely D, to be honest with you. I could see that happening if Hovda, doesn't do as good as predicted. But yeah, I think she wins here by 3 to 5% in this state. And now, really, to the two most consequential states. I'm gonna start off with Montana, actually. So Montana, and finally, almost we got a horrible pixelated picture of Tim Sheehy, but almost took until October to get a picture. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's Jon Tester against Tim Sheehy, and unfortunately for Tester, Sheehy has been quite a normalish candidate for the GOP, from what it seems like. No weird scandal, nothing weird, no issues with taxes, nothing like that. Just an alright candidate, and that's exactly what the GOP needs in a state like Montana. And that's why, you got estimate actually showing almost likely our victory for Tim Sheehy. And I could see that happening. Probably the worst time momentum-wise that Tester has had. He has barely led any polling. Only, one from August. Every single one of the other ones have almost been double digits for Team Sheehy, so it's not looking good at all for Tester, and almost looks like, he might be running out of luck in 2024. And unless something big happens with Tim Sheehy, he's likely going to be the new senator from Montana. From what I can tell, nothing, this is why I'm actually going to move this race from a tilt R margin upwards to a lean R margin for the GOP, and a pickup for them in this Senate map. I think he wins by 2 to 4%. Tester needs to pull something out of his bag, an ace, for him to win right now. It's looking quite unlikely, and that's why you're seeing a lot of investments instead of going to Montana by the Senate Democrats, going to Texas and Florida in hopes that they somehow flip those states. But it's a waste of money, in my opinion. But yeah, not looking good for Jon Tester, Montana, as of now, and almost time for the election. So Ohio. In Ohio, you got Sherrod Brown, or Mr. Brown. Can't say his first name. You got Bernie Moreno, who's a meh GOP candidate. He's not as good as Tim Sheehy, but he's not as bad as like Mark Robinson, for crying out loud. I wouldn't call him that. 538 RCP. All of them have Brown leading by 3%. Even though recently, Bernie Moreno has gotten a few good polls, they're not from the greatest ones, and the estimate has this is a 2.4 race for Brown, so it's extremely close. Still, I think Brown barely has it in the bag right now. It's still extremely close. Anything could happen, but from the momentum I'm seeing, I think Bernie Moreno is not able to overtake Brown on election day, and I think Brown barely wins re-election by less than 1%, probably like 0.25. And yeah, as you can see, this is my current Senate map. And yeah, let me know how your Senate map looks like. Feel free to leave a like, join the channel membership, leave a comment, why not, and have a good one.